So on the heels of watching, we're witnessing right now is their June update. This is their first major update since Kevin McGonigal graduated, and it's probably out of all the years we've done this, Chris. We've done this now. You've done this for a lot longer than I have, but as a collective, you and I have done this now together for about 7, 8 years.
Hmm.
And of all the times that we've had prospects graduate, in terms of the ripple effect, a farm system, Kevin McGonigal might be the greatest prospect the Tigers have ever had that was graduated, and the impact immediately has been through it's like a ripple. It's the ripple effect. It's the butterfly effect, whatever you want to call it. The McGoogles, there was a girl wearing the McGonagals
Yeah.
earlier in the broadcast, but you know, we're witnessing something here that today with the walk off was extraordinary, but on the farm system, this list took us a bit because, quite frankly, it's been a rough year for the Tigers farm system. Let's not mince any words here.
Yeah, you got kind of it's twofold, right? Like everybody should rejoice and celebrate how good Kevin McGonigal has been as a rookie at the big league level. That's the whole point of all of this, right?
Right.
And it's been awesome to watch, and it's great. They've got him signed for a long time. The less important thing, but still impactful, is it does make the system feel significantly lighter. You don't have one of the best hitters in baseball about to graduate. And they lost Hao Yu Lee as well, which it hurts a little bit. I mean, he was one of our top 10 prospects before he graduated. But yeah, there's the combination of losing McGonigal. You've got your second best prospect kind of coming off an injury, so he got off to a really slow start. Your third best prospect has been hurt all year. So there's just a lot of, it feels like the top isn't quite as impressive. And there's been so many injuries throughout the rest of the system that the depth doesn't feel as good either. And there's still a ton of interesting players, but there's a lot of projection now. You have to look at a guy and go, how much can he improve this area? How much can he improve that area? And it's heading down, and their next best prospect is not that far away from the big leagues either. So it's trending toward certainly a bottom 10 farm system in baseball, and maybe even bottom 5. Now we'll see what happens. Obviously, if the Tigers keep playing good baseball, they might not trade all their assets, which I think we would prefer, Tigers fans would prefer. But if something does happen there, then they can rebuild the farm system very quickly. But again, to do that, you're kind of mortgaging the future, or not mortgaging the future. You are doing the opposite of that, right? Like you're kicking the can down the road a couple more years.
Yeah, and that's where it's the kicking a can thing is you kind of look at where the future really is right now. Normally by now you have some sort of clear level, obviously of Max Clark, that we'll get to here in a second, who's number one, which should be pretty obvious. But at this point, there's by June, like last year, for example, it was safe to say that there was a lot of players in Double A Erie. You look at Andrew Sears, even with with McGonigal, Clark there, Briseño. There's a clear cut level of Erie's been the last 3 years or so. Erie's been the focal point for everything. This year, it is in June. Dare I say it's Lakeland? Because I really think that there's a future is in either Lakeland, a little mixture of Lakeland or West Michigan.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Lakeland, to me, is the most fun stop in the system. I mean, you still got some good talent there up in Toledo, but yeah, Lakeland is where most of the promise is held, and that's probably how it should be, right? You should have all your interesting young prospects down at the lowest level, and then they filter up. But it's just kind of an artifact of the way they drafted over the last few years. You've got some young bats who have either rocketed through the system or stalled, and a ton of young pitching that just got hurt and hasn't had any chance to get a foothold. And so you've got this gap between low A and triple A where there's not a ton of high upside prospects. But we still have seen a fair number of breakouts this year, and we'll certainly highlight those guys later on. And as we always say, this is just 2 months into the season. It's just a snapshot in time. Sometimes players turn it on in the second half, and we don't see it coming, and we make our December list or whatever. Maybe we do an update after the draft, don't we?
Yeah, usually,
Yeah.
yep.
So we'll do another update in a couple months, and we'll see what happens then. But yeah, right now it's there's a lot to talk about, but I don't get a warm fuzzy feeling when I think of the farm system.
Yeah, I think it's kind of in the middle of the pack right now in terms of baseball wise. And I mean, if you look at the top five, Ben Jacobs has shot up quite a bit. I mean, so how we did it was the average of five of our staff. So myself, Jerry, Colin, and Ashley all contributed to this. And the top three, I think, were very crossable, with the exception of Jerry, where he had Rayner at number 3 versus Bersenio, and he had Bersenio at 2. The top three were pretty unanimous, no cross the board, no question. But then it gets interesting when it gets to number 4 in Tyrone Lorenzo, where you and I are both kind of on the same page about that. And then Colin and Ashley had him more towards the bottom of the top 10. And Jacobs, because I haven't seen enough, and I don't just like say, like, me, I always try to think of when it comes to prospects, like to see as much as I humanly can before just with that. But the top five, I think our top five is, Jacobs to outsee, like, to me, I think it's kind of a travesty that we see Jacobs as high as number 5 compared to, speaking of Andrew Sears, who I think earned that spot. But that's just me. That's just a personal gripe I have.
Well, I mean, I think there's levels to that, right? They're both left-handed pitchers.
Yeah.
Sears had not pitched; he just started pitching again, and Jacobs was tore through low A and is having some success at high A. But yeah, Sears has reached a higher level and had success there, so that makes sense. I just on a pure stuff basis, I like Jacobs' stuff more. I think he has a better third pitch, and his fastball shape I think is a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's so. It's not like he's blowing him out of the water, and I think Sears has every chance to move back up the list, particularly if he comes up and is pitching in Double A, and maybe even in Toledo, because they're both probably ceiling number 4, number 5 starters with another like a fallback is kind of a Brant Herter style long man. So yeah, it's really just kind of pick your flavor, and one of them pitched the first 2 months of the season, the other one didn't. So there's a lot of kind of prisoner of the moment rankings on our list overall and average. Like, we saw these guys playing for the first 2 months, so we think of them, and other people who didn't, they're gone. Like they're a handful of pitchers who haven't thrown, who just fell off the list. Some high ranked, highly draft pitchers, but that's just the way it goes.
Yeah. And that's also reflected here with, like, for example, Jordan Yost, who I've had number 16, which I don't regret that one bit. I still need to see more of a sample size. And actually, I'm at number 4. So that's how much she thought of him. And Micaiah Witherspoon has struggled a little bit, as we mentioned this early. You mentioned him the other day in Lakeland, and Colin has him at number 6. So Colin sees that upside there. But I think the rest of the top 10 to me makes a lot of sense. I was shocked to see Brett Callahan just outside of top 10, and he's ranked number 12 overall in the system, but he's having a really good year. I mean, he's been healthy. He's been able to do a lot of things at the plate that I like. Just first time he's been really at Double A, and he's been able to. I know that, like, one of the things that Ryan Gargo talked about was how much power he's had, and that defensively he can handle it. And we're like, okay, we didn't see that at West Michigan, but we're definitely seeing that at Erie, where he's been playing a lot of center field. He's got 9 home runs. Strikeouts are 29 to 46, which is not bad considering where he's at, but the OPS is really good. And then as far as like splits go, you're kind of worried. I was at first I was kind of worried about where he was going to be at, but he's hitting lefties decently, 250. I want to see a little bit higher, but nevertheless, Callahan has really, to me, been the biggest surprise so far. One of the biggest surprises, I should say, in the season so far.
Yeah, he's been really good, really consistent, and part of it I think is staying healthy. He's been hurt each of the last 2 years, so missed a lot of time. But yeah, he seems to have made some adjustments. I feel like his stance is slightly different this year, but hitting for power, hitting for decent average, lots of hard line drives, and to all fields. And like you pointed out, he's walking a fair amount. There's still some strikeouts there, but they're not too high. And yeah, then he adds the element of speed and defense. He's a really nice, well-rounded player who should get up to the big leagues. And I think he's got the ceiling of an everyday regular, with a pretty strong fallback as a fourth outfielder who can play all three positions.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for a system right now that's lacking outfield depth. And Framber Montia would be, I think, higher on this list had he been healthy. And that's a thing that sucks about this list. You mentioned the pitcher's side. This is where on the infield or on the position side of things, this is where it hurts a lot for a guy like Montia, who we haven't been able to see what he's been capable of. I think he could have been starting the season in West Michigan, but I don't. Is he on the rehab trail yet? Or I don't think he's.
It's been about a year now, and he is not. Yeah, I don't know. He tore his ACL or his MCL in his knee, which is, you worry a little bit because a lot of part of his game is just kind of his explosive athleticism, and you hope that he can maintain that. But yeah, it'd be nice to see him back because the speed and the defense are very real, and he's got some feel to hit from both sides of the plate and a little bit of power. I think he's always going to be defense over offense, but he's a guy that had the look of an everyday shortstop, at least defensively. So the sooner they can get him back, the better. But got to let these guys heal properly.
Yeah, and you don't want to rush to something like that, especially a guy like Montia, who's the explosiveness, but also his baseball smarts too. I mean, I thought that was for his age, for being 19, 20, being aggressive on a base pass, and just a fun player to watch. And I definitely miss seeing him just kind of like do these really, I don't want to say hot dogging, but just showing some really flashy plays overall on the glove side of things. And so, which just brings us to John Peck. And Peck is an interesting case here where I thought maybe based off his spring training, Peck might be in the top 10, but he has kind of struggled a little bit in Double-A as far as like just he maintaining focus. Is that a good way to say, Chris? Or I mean, the ability is there. It just seems like it's just a little something's off. I don't know how else to
I think there was just a little bit of I don't know, just not completely locked in during the early part. He had 6 errors in his first 19 games, but he's only had 3 in like the rest of it. So he seems to have locked that in, and he's still doing a lot of what people really got excited. He kind of broke through to the mainstream in spring training with his his play. And I think he hit 330 in spring training and made some good defensive plays. But yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done there with the swing and miss, and I don't know if it's ever going to go away. He's not striking out at like a huge rate, but he's not walking either. So it's just kind of a highly aggressive Javi Baez style of play. He's not quite as spectacular defensively as Javi, but if he can get that under control a little bit, that's a very nice player to have. I still think he's probably going to be a utility guy, but that's not bad for a 7th rounder.
No, not bad whatsoever. You can't really, especially with the Pepperdine pedigree. Of course, was it Danny Worth that went to Pepperdine?
Yep.
Yeah, it's such a strange, small world kind of thing. And this is where I messed up here. So we have Jake Miller and Trey Cruz and Jesus Pinto, and I forgot to rank Pinto. And that was my fault. I will take responsibility for that. But I originally had him. I know for a fact I had him in the top 20.
We could fix it.
Yeah. So I had him at 22. That was where I originally had him. And but he has been a center. Like some of the advanced metrics that came out Baseball Reference. Talk about that, Chris, because there's some seriously really good numbers in terms of plate coverage and ball contact he's making.
Yeah, he's got a really nice mix of sort of precocious baseball feel and solid tools across the board. And so like he stands out because he's got a good idea of the strike zone. He doesn't strike out excessively. He takes his walks. He doesn't chase very much, and he puts the bat on the ball in the zone. So that's all a great mix. And on top of that, he hits the ball very hard when he does put the bat on the ball. I think they had a 104.9 90th percentile exit velocity, or 104 point something, which is essentially 55 grade big league power. So he's already got, at least in terms of 90th percentile exit velocity, above average big league power. The problem with him is that it's like 4 ground balls for every fly ball. and he's still only 19, so there's plenty of time to fix that. But we've seen this profile with a fair number of hitters coming through the system over the last few years, and it's kind of hard to change, to keep your swing. Like the two guys I can think of that really made that change are Winsel Perez and Parker Meadows, where they were hitting tons of balls on the ground, and they eventually learned how to loft it. And if Pinto can do that, he's got the power to hit 15, 20 home runs at the big league level, which could make him an everyday outfielder. The other thing about him, and he's got really good instincts. He makes a lot of nice sliding, diving grabs in center field, but he's kind of average-ish as a runner, so he's probably not going to stick at center field long term. So it kind of puts more pressure on that power to show up in games because, if you're playing right field, you need to have a little bit more pop in your bat. But again, like everything else is there, and he's another, like I said, heady player. Certainly plays older than 19, and just nice to see the Tigers have another potential good prospect coming out of the international program so soon.
I worry about the Christian Santana label too a little bit because Christian Santana got like almost. Oh, he was more of more fly ball guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, Santana is an extreme fly ball hitter.
Yeah.
And he walked a ton, but
yeah,
just and that's it's tough. It's tough to alter your swing to change your. I mean, it may be that Pinto is hitting the ball so hard because he's hitting these low line drives, and if he tries to lift it, it doesn't go as hard. But I don't want to put too many holes in his game. Again, this is a very exciting young player, and he's got a good arm, and just one of the more fun guys to watch in Lakeland, and sort of typical of what we see in that Lakeland roster with a lot of interesting players with tools and some work to do. But with him, he's got some of the harder stuff down. Like I said, that plate discipline is solid. So if he can start lifting the ball, then he can fly through the system.
And that definitely helped him. And the same thing with Johan Cobra, who Cobra has now gotten the attention of Lynn Henning, which I think is funny because who else brought it to his attention? I'd like to think we did. But also Baseball America's also brought him up a little bit. And he is now stateside, and that's an arm that the Tigers, I'm going to go ahead and put this and say it, that Kaiser Montero is an international win success because they haven't had too many. And maybe Cobra might be the next one because it just based off his age and what he's been able to, his command so far.
Yeah, I mean, you like what you see from him. He's really athletic on the mound. He throws a surprising number of strikes for such a young guy, and the fastball has a ton of life to it. He's sitting 94, 95 and touching 97 now. And again, it's crazy. He's like 5'10", 5'11", and maybe 170. But like I said, the athletic move and a lot of ride on his fastball too. It's consistent high IVBs, and then he backs it up with legitimate above average slider and a changeup with above average potential. So you got the 3-pitch mix there. He's throwing enough strikes. Hitters in the complex league aren't touching him. He's had a couple walks, but what is his strikeout numbers? He's got 24 strikeouts and 7 walks in 15.2 innings. He probably, they're managing his innings as you would of any 19-year-old. But he's probably due to move up to Lakeland at some point. I don't know what his innings limit is this year. And I just like to think of him like a second-round high school pitcher draft pick from last year. He's that age, and he's performing like you want to see somebody. So I think, him ranked 20 is, I don't know what he was before, but it's a nice move for him and indicative of what we think his talent is.
Yeah, and as far as like the talented, speaking of talented too, another guy that we looked at quite a bit in the spring training in Lucas Elisel, 21 through 30 to me is I think the most interesting part of the list because we see some names that perhaps that are brand new. I think in a lot of cases where it's kind of a who's who of maybe some names you're familiar with, some names you're not. And the fallback or the I don't know the fallback, but the guys who've dropped back quite a bit. And so I'll point if you want to. Is a certain name you want to go with here? You want to start with? But I was going to start with Owen Hall, who just started pitching again. Jerry is really low on him, and Colin actually really high on him. I'm just not sure if it's just because of name value alone. But I put him in the middle of the rack because I felt like okay. There's some pedigree there, but we still haven't seen enough.
Yeah, it's nice that he's back pitching, and he's a good guy to compare to Kova, as they're roughly the same age. They have the same velo for the most part. I think Kova's secondaries are more advanced, but Hall was a second round pick, and so certainly a lot of what his ranking is based on that and what we think the potential is there. But it's hard to say for sure because he's just pitching in the FCL, and he had somebody was using his outing the other day as an example of the Tigers being terrible at developing pitching, which I thought was kind of unfair. He walked a few guys and they pulled him, and the new rule in the low minors, and I would argue they should have this rule basically at every level in the minors because it doesn't really matter, is you can pull the starting pitcher after a certain number of pitches and put somebody else in, and then the starter can go back in the next inning. But the person they chose to bring in was Gabriel Rosado, the catcher, and he immediately gave up a grand slam. So 3 earned runs to Hall, even though he left him in on base, so he gets him. But you bring in a catcher, he's probably going to give up a home run. Then Hall went back in the game and I think pitched 3 scoreless innings with just 1 hit. So there's still some promise there, and he's another guy I expect to see at Lakeland later this year. And there's another guy who did not make the list is Paul Wilson, who just came back and threw an inning. So he's another one of the younger high school pitchers they've drafted who has some promise that I look to see toward the end of the year.
Yeah, you said the other day, I think it was in our chat that I think it was in Discord that he had a Wilson like type inning.
Yeah, I think he walked somebody or he hit somebody and then got a strikeout and a double play.
So no, that is a. I think Wilson's got some work to do as far as like just trying to the matter of just developing the consistency. Granson Grinsell, who's been pitching better than Witherspoon in some cases, comes into the middle of the pack here, and Kale Whiskey, I had him a little ranked 37th, but Jerry's really high on him too. And De Los Santos, I still haven't seen a lot of, so I couldn't fairly rank him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch. You pointed out like there's a bunch of really interesting players in this range. Elisalt is a guy that we've always liked his stuff, and we thought he just needed velo, and he got the velo, and suddenly he's given up a bunch of home runs, and it's kind of confounding. Wiska came out throwing 2 miles an hour harder. He was sitting 95 and a half and touched 98 a couple times, but he left a game in his second outing with what appeared to be an injury, and he hasn't come back yet, which is unfortunate. But yeah, he's a guy that combines velo and fastball shape with a couple interesting. He got a nice hard changeup and kind of developing a slider and a cutter. De Los Santos got off to a really rough start. I was looking this up. I think he was like, hitting 120 through his first 8 games. 129 with 10 strikeouts and no walks in his first 8 games. But in the last 16, it's a 130 WRC plus with power and 6 steals. So he's looking like, and he's playing shortstop. So he looks like another potential success story from the international program. He's from the same class as Chris Rodriguez, who we didn't touch on there, but he's got, in my mind, a more well-rounded game than Rodriguez, and potentially more likely to be an impact player down the road.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and you mentioned Grinsell. I want to touch on him real quick because he got off to a great start in I think in April. He was damn near untouchable. But he's still like throwing 60, 65% fastballs, and it's only 90 miles an hour. He gets away with it, or he was getting away with it because he's got a funky kind of over-the-top arm angle, and the fastball comes in at like a flat plane, like 19, 20 inches of IVB. But hitters seem to have been looking for that now, and it's getting hit pretty hard. He still has a really good changeup, but in my mind, he needs to start throwing his slider and his curveball more, or maybe develop a cutter. Because he's just a 2-pitch pitcher for the most part right now, and hitters even at the low A level can sit on that and attack. So he got some work to do, but it is a very interesting arm.
Yeah, it's an arm that's been thankfully healthy.
Yeah,
like I hate to say it that way, but the amount of injuries this year across the system has been weird. And what's funny is that a guy who I had highly on our list, Joe Miller, is not on.
Joe Miller, you and I voted for him, and nobody else did. You can go down to the bottom and see.
Boo!
Joe Miller. We both put him in the top 25, but nobody else did, and that's the rules. Them's the rules. We you had to get 3 votes to make the list, so it's unfortunate, but we always put out like a supplementary article about the guys we're higher on than others.
And Malgeri just barely made that list. And Malgeri, like, I had him ranked 13th because he's been hitting the splits better. Like, I look at one of the things that I know, we found out the Tigers look at like AAA splits. They look at if they're hitting velocity and sliders and breaking balls. And Malgeri's been hitting all of it. And he's doing it at a pretty good level too. And so the question becomes, like, especially when we see Jahmai Jones, his splits against lefties, he's hitting lefties with a little more power than he is righties. So the question then becomes, as Tiger fans are looking for answers, are when are you going to cut loose on Jahmai Jones to place for somebody like Malgeri? The answer is, I think if Malgeri made enough of an impression to be up here by now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's possible. Like, they invited him to spring training, so we think they like him. And he's just a guy that I have a small cluster. The way I did my list is I kind of clustered people together outside of like the top 15. So I got Malgeri as the top of this group of outfielders that includes Nick Dumanil and Zach McDonald and Jackson Strong. These guys who I think have a chance to help, but don't necessarily have like a carrying tool to make them an everyday outfielder. But Malgeri is really close, and everything he does is solid. Like, if he played every day in the big leagues, I don't think he'd put up much of an average, but he could give you a solid outfield defense, and he could hit you some extra base hits and steal some bases. And I think he does strike me as a solid sort of late bloomer who could help the Tigers. So I maybe should have had him higher, but in my mind, it's like the ceiling is a fourth outfielder, and he's already 26, I think. So that dragged him down a little bit.
And that's really a thing where I also kind of look at it as a byproduct of the Tigers trying to keep a lot of guys in the system as old, as much in there, in there as quickly as, or in there as much as they need them to be. I think I don't know, like there's, like, for example, like Chris Myers should not be in Erie, but he is.
Yeah.
So I think it's just based off status circumstances, really. I think in any other system, he'd be in the big leagues by now, or maybe out of baseball. I don't know. I'm trying to understand the rationale behind it. But my theory is that he's there because they think of something of him, because you mentioned he got the invite to camp, but still.
Yeah.
But one guy I wanted to get to on this list, I mean, Jaden Ham still hasn't pitched in the backfield yet either, which is kind of like the fall of Jaden Ham. This guy was in our top 10 and just keeps falling. And it's a shame, Chris.
Yeah, I'm getting some pretty serious Wilmer Flores vibes here, unfortunately. And I mean that in the worst possible way, where it's this guy shows up and he has this kind of lightning quick ascent and looks like a future top 100 prospect, and then it just stops. Like, and I think with Flores it was his shoulder, and I think with Ham it's a shoulder, and you just hope he can come back healthy. But I'm not, like I said, I've got some bad vibes at this point.
Yeah, and it sucks. But what doesn't suck is watching this guy pitch, and I'm starting to understand why you guys have him at number 31 and Charlie Christensen.
And that's the thing, Christensen. And that's the thing, right? When you,
this guy is, even like the back of him, like he looks like the Jeff Weaver. That's Jeff Weaver, 100% Jeff Weaver, dude.
I would have to, I want to put it side to side, but it reminded me of that. No, I don't think he's going to pitch at a near Cy Young level at the big league level.
Or be a total asshole to people either.
Yeah, hopefully not. But yeah, like Christensen is one of the two bigger surprises on this list, I would say, just based on his draft status. Like, for as much as we give, Owen Hall and guys like that some latitude because they were drafted highly, guys drafted, like Christensen's 15th rounder, he has to earn this with his performance, and he's been outstanding so far. He pitched today. It was 4 scoreless, I think 1 hit with 8 strikeouts. He has given up. What's his ERA? It's bonkers. And the most interesting thing about it is, it's that really unusual kind of low arm slot, but he also has like 7 feet of extension. And typically when you see a guy throw like that, he's a sinker slider guy, and that's it. And he does have, those are probably his 2 best pitches, his sinker and his slider. But he's also got a very good changeup. which is really unusual from an arm slot like that. And I still don't know how he throws it, but once it gets to the plate and it drops. And so he's got a starter's arsenal, and he throws strikes. And so I don't know. I mean, he still has the look of a reliever to me down the road, but I think you keep starting him until he proves he can't, because it's fun to watch. So I was thinking Jared Weaver. I think not Jeff Weaver, but
although I'm sorry for Tiger fans, I just realized what dumbass I'm a dumbass.
2006 World Series.
Yeah, I haven't watched this. I have this on DVD, and I've watched this DVD maybe once, like the World Series thing, and it's never mind.
Yeah, it's such a bummer, man. Getting owned by
the guy
Anthony Reyes and Jeff Suppan and whoever else was in that. But
yeah, Jeff Weaver.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, Christensen, really fun pitcher to watch. I don't know what the plan to do with him is, if they're gonna, but he's a guy who certainly performed well enough to move up a level, so we'll see. But yeah, and the last thing I'll say about him is he still isn't throwing as hard as he threw in his first start. In his first start, he was sitting 93 and touched 95 a couple times. Even got it rounded up to 96, and since then he's mostly been like 91, 92 and touching 94. So there's a little bit more in there. So even if he doesn't, stick as a starter, I think he could be a very useful reliever, kind of in the mold of what we were hoping Tanner Colehep could be. This kind of, funky looking right-hander. So really nice pick in the 15th round.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, about what I like about the idea of him just going as a starter. They have to figure out something that's going to work. Yeah. I mean, like the Tigers pitching development has taken a really weird swing of things. It hasn't been consistent at all. So for me, it's like, look, if it doesn't mean that he's whatever they can find that sticks, it's weird to say that, but the amount of injuries, it's frustrating. The whole thing is frustrating to watch. But if they're able to develop this guy, it'd be another late round gem, because Derek Scooble's a 9th rounder, obviously. And then you just have to wonder why teams passed on him if it becomes successful.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and you look at his college ERA was over 6, and so maybe the Tigers saw something. I haven't been able to go back and look at what he looked like as a college pitcher. Maybe they've altered something in his mechanics or moved him on the mound or something pretty simple. But for whatever they did or whatever he did is working spectacularly so far. So that's one of the good player development stories this year for sure.
All right, well here's a palate cleanser. Here's Jared Weaver against Carl Scan. There we go.
So he still has a bit of it's a little bit more over the top, but
yeah.
But yeah, that's fun.
No, yeah.
While we're thinking of Josh Naylor, we can think of the last Public Enemy #1.
Yeah, and he did not like that and the Chris Sale jersey cut up thing too. So that was a whole funny. Weird. Yeah, that was a weird thing. But moving on to the 30s a little bit, in Caleb Blaze, another a draft pick from last year. But the guy I really want to talk about on this number 34 and Ali Tanner, who has really been impressive for his age, 19 years old, and I think he's potential there. Same like you mentioned earlier with Koba. There's potential there with Tanner's arm.
Yeah, he and Koba are a nice little 1-2 punch of 19-year-olds from the international market. Now Tanner from Australia, Koba is from Venezuela, I think. I'd have to look, but
yeah, I believe that's the case.
But Tanner is probably the same height as Koba, but maybe like 30 pounds heavier, maybe 40. He's really sturdy, and his stuff is just blinking red on like any sort of Stuff Plus models. It's the fastball at 94, 96 with a ton of ride and spin. Really spins a curveball, has a nice slider, can kill the spin on the breaking or the changeup. And when he's on, he looks really good. He strikes guys out, and he doesn't give up a hard contact, but he's still learning how to pitch. And so, you could see him moving up. If he harnesses it all, you could see him moving up pretty quickly and maybe even surpassing Koba because of he's just a little bit stronger. But for right now, he's had these kind of up and down outings. So he got ranked a little bit lower, but another really exciting young arm that you hope that they can keep healthy.
Yeah, and that's it. The bottom line is arm health is all the the most simplest thing possible. But the Tigers have not been able to do that here, and that kind of leads us to the rest of this list is I'm going to say hodgepodge, if you will, but the rankings. I don't forgot to put Pacheco in there. I was applauding on Pacheco. Then I realized I didn't put him on the list. Should be. I have him. I know I had him like 33, 34. So this is kind of this was fitting right there. Jack Penny, I just didn't see enough there. So sorry about that. And the same thing with.
This is why we do this many people. Some of us come up with guys that other people don't, and that's just the way it goes. We all have different opinions. Like I said, we didn't talk about Chris Rodriguez, but I have him lower than anybody else, just because I'm worried about tons of swing and miss. I've seen it, kill careers too much. But with Pacheco, you've been talking about. We were talking about him. I don't know if we were off the air or what, but he ended up falling down our list. But again, it was, I think, just because of his awful April. He hit 141 with a 46% strikeout rate in April. But since then, since May 1st, he's hitting 264, 350, 560 with 6 home runs in 26 games. Like, that's exactly what you want from him, what he did last year. So he seems to have figured out AA pitching to a certain degree, and he's essentially the same guy as he was last year. But, having that tough start kind of drags down your overall numbers, and that's the way it goes.
And Pacheco, to me, and that's just next time I'm going out to Erie, I'm going to make sure I have a point to talk to some of these guys. Yeah, his month of, he's kind of off to a slow start in June right now, but I still, he has 9 strikeouts to no walks yet. But like I said, the glove is I'm really complimentary of the glove. I think that defensively he's good. And another guy who also has fallen off the list, and is Tyler Madison. Now he comes in at number 39. I had him at 29 because when he's on, he's very good. But, Chris, it's another guy, again, you're not sure what the control or command, whatever happened to it.
Yeah, and his velocity has never quite come back to what we saw when he was at his peak in Erie, right? He was sitting upper 90s, and now he's averaging 93. It doesn't really matter because his fastball has such ride on it. But the main issue is he can't throw enough strikes. He's got, I think, almost a 1-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio this year. And if you can't throw strikes, it's hard to have success when you're coming out of the bullpen. You keep waiting for it to all click one day, and then he can pitch because he's got 3. He's got a breaking ball, he's got a changeup. But yeah, gonna need to throw strikes at some point. And he's another guy who's a little bit older. I think he's 26 now, because he lost like a year and a half to injury. So it's when we're getting down to this point, we're ranking relievers, and you're just taking kind of
darts.
Some of these guys, some relievers are going to work out, but you never know which ones will when you rank them. So we're just I had him 34th. But yeah, I don't know. He's still fun to watch at times, but other times it's not so good.
But case in point, like Moses Rodriguez, who just throws a straight fastball, Colin has him at 17, which really helped him quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah, we went to different levels with our rankings. Rodriguez's numbers are fine this year. He's got a ERA that's under like 2.5. He just doesn't miss bats. It's a really good sinker that gets a lot of soft contact, but he doesn't have a legitimate secondary pitch yet. So that limits the ceiling, right? Like a guy like that, your ceiling is probably Jason Foley, which would be great, but that's like the 99th percentile outcome. And he needs to add something else to get to that level. But he's still one of the hardest throwers in the system, so that's worth something. And I don't think any of us ranked Marco Jimenez. Maybe we did, but he's another guy who should be on the list, but is well, I did, and so did Ashley. But he's hurt right now, so again, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, right? Like we these guys aren't performing, so we forget about them.
Yeah, like Zach Lee. Like Zach Lee, for example, has been up to AAA, and no one had him. I was kind of shocked at that, honestly. And same thing with Carlos Mercado. Doesn't strike out a lot, but he's been pitching better. This is where the list gets really. And same thing with Hurtado. Hurtado's hitting better, but he's still at that.
Yeah, he had a rough May, and his average is down around 200 now. He's still walking a ton.
Hayden Minton, same thing. Minton is another guy who's performing very well.
Yeah, it's I'm the only one who ranked River Hamilton. as you see. It's just the way it goes. I don't know if anybody had Ryan Hall. Maybe I didn't even rank Ryan Hall, but yeah, it's different strokes for different folks. I did want to go back and talk about one player in the 30s, number 36, Edion Espinal, who really looks like he can hit. It's like you don't want to go too crazy about a college player performing in low A, but it's all there. He's like 5'7", so it's a really short, quick swing from both sides of the plate. He's a switch hitter, and both of the swings look good to me. He turned around a 99-mile-an-hour fastball the other day with no problem, and he works the count. He draws walks. He puts the ball in play. He's been stealing bases. I don't think he's an above-average runner, but he's heady like that, and he's learning how to play catcher, and that's the key to his overall profile. But is it that him? He went down and turned on the ball. He just looks like a hitter to me. He looks like a guy who can hit, and he's not slow. I mean, he got a triple there, so he's just been a fun player, and he was their 10th rounder last year, and a really fun investment. And if he can learn to catch, he's gonna be he's gonna be
streak to 9
a
games,
good prospect.
on base streak to 11 as he takes up.
Yeah,
Arm strength is fine.
Yeah, he was and I was talking to the on-field reporter from Toledo who went to college with him. She was the team reporter for the baseball team, and now her name is escaping me for some strange reason right now. But I was down in Toledo last week, and how much he was able to play any position at Central Florida that they need him to. He's from I believe from the Tampa area. But yeah, here's another one too.
Entire pro career.
Right-handed,
A whole new
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
0-2.
It's a hard hit. That's a hard hit, like right up the middle there.
Yeah, I don't know if the most recent one, the one with he turns around 99, it was against Fort Myers.
Lived there for a couple years with his family. 2-1 pitch.
It's an
Sky
Oppo homer.
Yeah, that was a blast too, because the fact that it came off the end of the bat like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a little pop in there. I wouldn't say like it's plus power or anything like that, but for a shorter guy, there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like with him. I think nobody is really talking about him just yet, but the production's there. And
2-on-1 out, lefty on righty to pitch. Espinal hits it hard.
Smoked. That's absolutely smoked.
That was 99 coming in, and I think 104 going out.
Kind of reminds me of Devon Travis a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Just kind of that shorter kind of. It's a quick swing, and I don't know. Like I said, he's a guy I think that if he keeps performing and starts to make strides defensively, I think he'll move up some lists and maybe start showing up on some national lists.
Yeah, and the fact he's a switch hitter also does bode well for him.
Turns around second.
So, yeah. No, there we go. There's another one too. This is the other home run on the other side.
Espinal lifts a high fly
Yeah, I
ball.
mean that's a good looking swing. I mean it's a hanging breaking ball, but he did not miss it.
Yeah. And also, anytime I get a chance to make fun of Clearwater's announcer, I'm going to do it.
That's right. Oh, they're going to Clearwater again. I think Casey Mize is starting for them in a couple days. So
yeah, on Tuesday. Yep. So
in Clearwater, so we'll get to hear him
complain about the Tigers. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to, it's just to show the whole body of work. And
yeah,
no, you're right. That's a good call there. And he is a guy that I wish I could say that I saw more of him. And again, I just don't like being dishonest with people about when it comes to that kind of stuff. But the more I do, I understand Devon. To me, when I look at him, it kind of reminds me of Devon Travis, who had a really quick swing like that.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, as we invest in these lists more and more, you're going to see more opinions of that. And one of them I had was for Zach McDonald. I wrote up his report, and I wrote the one on Espinal because I haven't seen him, and I wanted to have more of a sample size to watch with that. But
yeah, McDonald is a fun one because he's the sort of player that you would expect in the 15th round, right? Like he's tooled up. He leads the Florida State League with 12 home runs. He's hit a ball 114 miles an hour. He's fast. He's good defensively in the outfield. He's got a strong arm. He just swings and misses too much. And what you hope is that he can improve on that. He can make strides there. He's going to need to move forward in the system. But if he does, and we've seen other players, we saw Mel Jerry do it, where he cut down his strikeout rate by like 12% in 1 year. If he can do that, then he's a very exciting player. It's kind of right now he's got like a fatal flaw, right? And so that's why he's on our list so low, because it's like, well, if he doesn't fix this, and he's not going to get to the big leagues. But if he does, then he could be a very good player. So players like that are a little bit tough to rank, but we wanted at least to acknowledge the fact that he's crushing the ball.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And for everybody out there, again, thank you so much for your support on our Patreon. So for people that are watching this and listening to us on our Patreon, there's going to be a little more. Like I said, Chris is working on a massive article. I'm going to be doing an article on the state of the pitching in the system right now. So we got a lot of stuff coming out for you for Patreon, and then for everybody on YouTube that's getting this a little later. Thank you so much. And the clips have been great. We've been getting some good feedback on that, and we're going to continue. So we'll be back on for everybody who's listening to us today. Back Monday night live. Tigers off. Everybody's off for the night as the Tigers will take on a 3-game series against the Twins before they head to Cleveland. And in a critical, I don't want to say, it does sound over dramatic to say critical, but it's true. It's a critical series against the Guardians coming up this weekend, the next weekend coming up. And Tigers, again, those who are living under a rock, 4-3 victory over the Seattle Mariners to take the series, and they are off to a 5-1 start to the month. Any final words, Chris, before we get out of here?
No, thanks for watching, and look for the article soon.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, well, I'll be updating the chart accordingly this evening. And thanks again for supporting our Patreon. Have yourself a good evening, and stay close, everybody.